Are you a buyer or seller in this market right now? I mean, things are really starting to change. In fact, I was just reading an article from Redfin about how a lot of houses right now are falling out of contract. If this is something you really want to hear about, make sure you continue watching this video. All right, what's up everybody? This is Rob Schou here with EXP Realty in Maryland. If you're looking to move to Southern Maryland, make sure you reach out to me. Call me, text me, and I'd be happy to help you make your move a whole lot easier. You can also scroll down to the first comment, click that link, and it'll schedule a Zoom meeting one-on-one with me where we can talk about your home buying needs. And last but not least, if you haven't yet and you love the content we're putting out, make sure you click the subscribe button, click that bell so you can be notified every single time we put out new content, and it also helps other people just like you find our channel. I talked about in the beginning, Redfin just came out with an article on July 11th about how the deals are starting to fall through. So I've talked a lot about the different housing market stuff in previous housing market updates. This is a big one because we're starting to see the data show that the market is softening. So let's go ahead and go point through this article, get a good idea of what it's talking about so you can be better prepared when you jump into this market, whether you're buying or selling. All right, so if you look right here, the very first thing is the headline that we see. It says the deal is off. These are the highest rates of canceled home buys and home sales that have happened since the pandemic. Now we can all remember back to March 2020 when things felt like, everything was going to end, and there's a lot of bad things that came from it, but also with the housing market, it definitely started or continued the upswing that we were seeing. I think it really accelerated, if anything. So a lot of the people that were under contract in March really dropped out of those contracts of fear. And so we saw that big spike of home sales being canceled, but we're seeing a big spike again, and there's some factors why. So let's go ahead and get into the article and figure out why that. All right, so one of the biggest reasons this article says that we're seeing home sales starting to fall through when they're under contract is definitely because of the rising mortgage rates. Mortgage rates are rising at such a pace that if you're pre-qualified before you go home shopping, there's a chance that you could actually not be able to lend, or not be able to get the amount that you were originally approved for by the time you actually found a home. So right here is that example. So if rates were 5% when you made an offer but reached 5.8% by the time the deal was set to close, you might not be able to afford that home or qualify for it. So what we're definitely seeing is the action of the Fed, where they wanted to increase rates to kind of cool the demand, is definitely working. Now, on the flip side of it, sounds kind of bad for both buyers and sellers, but I see this as that equaling that I've been talking about in all the other videos that I've done, all the other housing market videos. I see this as that balancing between buyers and sellers. There is definitely going to be more leverage for buyers now because there's going to be less buyers, less demand out there. So more and more I'm seeing more people, one, being able to sell their home or be able to buy another home while being contingent on their home for sale. I'm seeing people get seller credits and stuff like that a few months ago, that was unheard of. And there's definitely less competition per listing. Now, that being said, locally, I know 100% that the most desirable areas are still getting multiple offers, but we're not getting multiple offers on homes that maybe are just outside that desirable area or aren't in the top condition. So, for buyers, there still can be a little competition that you need to watch out for. But for sellers, this is super important right now. If you want to sell your home, you want to make sure that you're going with someone that's going to make, or you're working with someone that's going to make sure it's marketed appropriately, it's staged appropriately, and it shows the best it possibly can when people come through, because there's going to be more competition on the market for the exact same home. It's going to be, I think it's going to be a big shift, and we're already seeing, a lot of people that put their homes on the market really quick to try to catch that seller's market, and they're sitting or their price decreasing, and it's just not the same feel it was just a few short months ago. Now, if you look, it's not everybody that is seeing these pending sales, and honestly, it's some of the markets that saw the biggest appreciation that are seeing these home sales drop. So just kind of going through right here, you can see a lot of them are in those hot areas that were Florida, Las Vegas, in that kind of area. Texas is one that everyone talks about, and these major metropolitan areas that experience a ton of appreciation since the COVID boom of real estate. So if you're not in these markets, it's probably not going to be felt as much, but there's definitely this ripple down effect of these kind of things. So here we are right here. Here's our DC market and our Baltimore market. They're kind of a little bit lower down on this, but they're not immune from it itself. And so the last thing I kind of want to do is just a brief update of what Maryland's looking like. If you watched the last few market videos I've done, you know I've been saying that I really believe, based on that Redfin data and based on other things that I'm seeing, that we're seeing a leveling of the Maryland market, that we're seeing appreciation kind of just level out to normal levels. And if you look with the most recent data, which is going to be June 2022, since we're in July right now, and mortgage or housing data normally is about a month behind, you can see this leveling out. So the median sales price really took a big jump around that January timeframe, kept going up, kept going up, kept going up, and then just leveled out in June or May and June. It's really not that much of an increase, and I would expect to see that leveling continue. And one of the things that a lot of people have talked about in the housing market right now is inventory, and inventory is still low. It's at historic lows, and you can just see it based on this chart. And what I'm going to say is, I think this is kind of good, because with buyers retreating from the market, if there is a flood of houses, we could potentially see that housing market crash again. But with low inventory and less buyers, we're seeing a healthy market compared to, a hot market, a hot seller's market, or a flooded market with a whole bunch of houses to sell and not a whole bunch of buyers. All right, and so the last figure that I'm going to talk about is definitely this housing demand. So this is definitely one that, all right, so the last figure I'm going to talk about is the housing demand. So these have 3 different tabs that talk about housing demand, and this just kind of reinforces that we're seeing less demand on the supply and demand side here. So we're seeing an average kind of a dip. It's a little bit higher than last year of homes being sold over ask price, but we're starting to see that dip a little bit earlier. If you look last year, June and July, it kind of plateaued. This year, May and June, it's dropping. So it's dropping earlier this year than it has previous years. We're also seeing more and more homes with price drops. So this right here, this 33% price drop is the highest it's been in a long time, according to this chart, since 2019. And my last one right here, you can see sales to list price is still a little bit higher than 100%, which is higher than what it's been averaging, but you can definitely see it starting to come down. So I know I've been talking about this for a little while, that we're going to see this balancing in the market. The data is showing it. Anecdotally, I'm definitely seeing it in our market, where more and more sellers are, offering closing assistance, or flat out, just paying buyers to help lower their rate when they're closing. So there's lots of different things going on here that is definitely evening out the market. I want to say this with a caveat. That doesn't mean that you're going to be able to go in and get, these steals of a deals for $50,000 under list price and all this kind of stuff. What it does mean, it gives you a little bit more time to make informed decisions and buy the right house for you. We should be able to see a few houses when we go on home tours and not be so rushed as it gets a little bit later in this year. And another thing, I think we're also going to start seeing less people waive contingencies, like the home inspection, things like that. I just think it's going to be a more balanced, and I keep reusing that word, but more balanced market that's just going to produce well for both buyers and sellers. All right, so if you need a realtor to help you really navigate this market, this ever-changing market, who keeps up on data, reach out to me. Use that contact information below. Call me, text me, and I'd be happy to help you make this decision so much easier. You can also scroll down to the first comment, click on the link, and it'll schedule a Zoom meeting one-on-one with me, where we can talk about your home buying needs. And last but not least, if you haven't yet, and you find this information helpful, click the subscribe button, click the little bell so you're notified every single time we put out new content. Hope to see you on the next video.